Hello, and welcome to a Purpose-Driven Marriage podcast. We are Duane and Nadine Stewart, and we love any and all things marriage. You've tuned into the right place if you're looking for actionable, practical tips to help you overcome real-life obstacles common to real relationships. We're here to help you strive for a marriage as God has designed it and not as the world has defined it. Because why settle for a good marriage when you can have a great one? Welcome to a Purpose-Driven Marriage podcast. We are Duane and Nadine Stewart, and today we are actually going to be talking about 5 common issues that couples fight about, right? The couples have conflict over, and I think it's pretty safe to say that there's a lot more than just 5.
No doubt about it. But you know what? I can tell you that probably everybody listening, and the two of us in this room have each one of us have had some conflict or had problems or fought about or had arguments. Let's say that, because I don't think we've ever really fought before.
No. We're not throwing down.
Yeah, we're not throwing punches or nothing like that, but definitely a verbal spar about every single one of these things. So I think it'll definitely resonate with everybody.
And I just want to start by saying that when you do it correctly, conflict can actually offer opportunities for intimacy, for deeper and further connection with one another. And so we're not suggesting that conflict should never happen. It just needs to be a good balance, right? And it's got to be healthy in the way that you go about doing it.
Right.
And that you make sure that there are a lot more positive interactions in your relationship than there are negative, right? In fact, Dr. John Gottman in his Love Lab did that research where they found that really it requires 5 positive interactions to, to counteract, right? To balance out 1 negative.
Right.
And so if you're experiencing conflict and there's, some negativity behind it, just make sure that the positive that you and your spouse are sharing with one another far outweigh that by a ratio of 5 to 1.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I mean, we talk about the sandwich, right? So negative, positive. So you have a positive compliment, and the negative, whatever the opportunity is, and then the positive on the outside. You can use that too. But
it's really just providing that cushion around your relationship so that the hard times don't feel so hard.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
So let's
talk about it though. So there is number one, and everybody, especially us in the beginning that have had the challenge, which is money.
Money.
Oh my goodness. Money. I tell you what, that is definitely a challenge for all of us because we've all come from different backgrounds, right? Some of the things that we talked about before was cultural differences, and money is one of those topics where everybody grew up in a different environment. Some people were savers, right? Some people spent pretty much the money was already spent before it got into the account, right? And then some people are investors, right? So I think there's all these different aspects of where you come from. And if you merge in 2 people together that have 2 different philosophies on money, that's going to be a big challenge, right?
Oh, huge. In fact, according to a survey conducted by Credit Karma, 78% of people say that money is a significant cost of stress in their relationships.
Yep.
That is not surprising.
Not at all.
At all. It's not even just about the saver versus the spender, but then you also got the dynamics of, different incomes, right? You've got one that's making maybe significantly more than the other.
Yeah.
That's also a huge difference and another thing that people fight about. I
would say especially too when the husband does not make as much as the wife, because I think this is something that we experienced earlier on in our relationship, but I probably didn't talk about it as much.
No, you didn't. You didn't talk about this, huh?
But when the wife makes more than the husband, then that's kind of a challenge for the husband. It's almost a hit to the ego in a way, because you expect to be, like, society tells you that you're supposed to be the breadwinner, the person bringing home the bacon. So you feel somewhat inadequate and all those different things. And so that could be a source of conflict, especially when it comes to, spending. Like, oh, I'm not spending my money. I'm not spending our money. I'm spending your money. You know what I mean? And not saying that's the case with everybody or anything like that. But I think that could be a point of contention And that's something that should be discussed. It's not something that, it's something that society's talked about a lot, but something that for sure should be just worked out and discussed with your spouse.
I feel like we're in a therapy session, honey,
Yeah.
because that's not anything that you and I have ever talked about.
Yeah.
And so as you're talking about it right now, I'm thinking, what?
Yeah.
Like he feels that way, or he felt that way?
I felt that way in the past.
Yeah, you
Definitely
felt that
not.
way in the beginning.
I mean,
well,
situation's way different now, but
yeah, and I'm also really glad that you brought up that you can, like a
Yeah.
couple in that situation can feel that way, because we're now in 2023, and there's probably a lot of couples that are like, you know what? I don't care who makes
that's right.
all the money, as long as we've got money to pay the bills, we're good.
That's right. Because now your identity should not be in your job or in how much you make and all those things. And I think that's an important distinction to remember. It's about your role. Your role in your family is the spiritual leader. If you're the husband, your husband and wife are we're one with each other. And so we do this all together. So we're not separate entities.
Absolutely. And the fact of the matter is, no matter who is making what, we have a combined budget.
Mm-hmm.
We have combined expenses. We have a combined household. Everything that is coming in, everything that's being spent is ours together, no matter who's bringing it in. And so that's actually the tip that we were going to share with you guys, is that setting up a household budget and sticking to it can significantly help to reduce conflicts over money. And even working together to set financial goals can help couples to build that secure future. I know it always makes me feel good knowing that we have these goals for our finances that we're both working towards. And it just makes me feel good that I know that we're going to retire, and we're going to retire well. And it definitely minimizes the financial stress in our relationship.
Yeah. I can tell you for us specifically, if we have everything set in the budget, and maybe it's a kitchen remodel or it's, furniture or some big ticket item, and whenever it comes time to go and purchase it, it's already in the budget. It's like, all right, let's go find it. Let's go, figure out how much it costs, which one we like, and let's go for it.
And relationship experts suggest that couples become clear about their money goals. So practicing that open communication, that's a huge deal, and transparency about finances, right? And if needed, don't be afraid to do this. Seek help from a financial counselor. There is nothing wrong with getting help in the areas that you need it. We can't all be experts in everything.
Yeah.
So we will move on to the next one. What was the next one, honey?
So the next one is parenting. Wow. It's definitely, especially in the beginning, right? For new moms, new dads, like, how do you take care of this new baby that you don't know a dang thing how to take care of, right?
Right. According to a study by the University of Michigan, 70% of couples experience a decrease in marital satisfaction after the birth of their first child.
Right. Well, you're tired, right? You're not sleeping. You got stress because the baby's crying and you can't really figure out like how to comfort the child, and people got to go to work, and there's just a lot of stress going on, right? So now we got to figure out how do you parent this child?
Well, it's, parenting issues can be a major source of tension, especially when couples have different expectations or parenting styles.
Yep.
And so when couples fight about parenting, it's usually due to a difference of opinion on how to discipline the children, how to do the day-to-day care. Do they need to bathe every single night, or is every other night, okay?
Yeah. I mean, do you spank? Do you, set them in the corner, timeout, something like that, or whatever it is, right? There's all these different things. I mean, but it also, like when babies are young and they cry, it's like, okay, so do we allow the baby to cry to themselves to sleep, or do we go and we comfort the child? And, there's all kinds of different things that us as parents have to agree to, and coming from different environments, how we grew up might have been different. So that definitely can be a clash.
Oh, yeah. So the best way to manage these issues is really to come together and create a shared parenting plan. Like one that allows both of you to feel heard and to feel respected. Because really, we assume that moms should know all things, but there's a reason why God created moms and dads,
Mhm.
right? Husbands have great things that they could contribute to this, and their thoughts, their opinions, they matter as well.
Right. Right.
Right. Like, for
Mhm.
example, when you brought up the whole, should the baby cry it out to sleep or should they not? If
Mhm.
it wasn't for you, I don't think our kids would have ever slept through the night.
That might be
Because
true.
if it were up
That
to
might
me,
still be in our bed right now.
they would be
Mhm.
in our bed and they would
No
be
question.
snuggling right there
Yeah.
next to us, and we would probably never been intimate again.
Mhm.
And so, all I can say is that both sides
Yeah.
have good things to
That's right.
contribute.
That's right.
Right. And
Yep.
so just creating a shared parenting
Dialogue.
plan that allows
Mhm.
both to feel heard and respected is really, really important, and it's critical of the relationship, because it's important to remember that you and your spouse are on the same team.
That's right.
And coming up with those joint decisions that will be best for your family and for your relationship really is ideal.
Yeah.
So the next issue,
What is it, Nadine?
oh gosh, you want me to talk about this? Intimacy. So intimacy is
Yeah.
a key component of
Mhm.
any healthy marriage. And issues often arise when couples don't talk about their
Mhm.
needs or desires
Mhm.
to each other.
I
Right?
can I
Communication
I
is so, so key when it comes to managing intimacy.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that especially men, so I can just say this, right? Men usually have a much higher expectation of what intimacy in a marriage is going to be. It's usually gonna be, like, way, way, way up here, and, maybe my wife or their wife might have a different expectation. So that's where the disappointment comes from typically, because they're like, "Well, I'm expecting it to do it this many times a week," and all of a sudden it's not that way. We're like, okay, so what's going on?
Yeah, but babe, I think it's important that the couple define what intimacy
For
means
sure.
for them,
For sure.
right? Because for men, intimacy might be sex,
Mhm.
right? For many
I can tell
men,
you, I can tell you that it not might be. Intimacy is sex in the
but
beginning until you really start to understand. Okay, well, there's different aspects of this, and now I have to really, fulfill both sides of it, not just the sexual part, but the verbal, the familial love side of intimacy.
But that's why communication is so important, because for men, in order to feel love, they often need sex.
That's right.
But for women, in order for us to want sex, we need to feel
Feel
love
love.
first.
Mhm.
Right. And so you see how important it is to be able to communicate that with one another,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, they probably are desiring the same thing,
Right.
but the way that you go about it is completely different. And so that's where the miscommunication happens. That's where you end up on completely
Mhm.
separate sides of the page, or on two different pages
Mhm.
altogether.
Yeah.
And for a lot of women, intimacy begins with conversation,
Right.
right? So we may want to talk and feel heard first.
Mhm.
We may want to sit there and talk about our feelings and have you tell us for the 1 billionth time
Mhm. Why
why
I love
you
you.
chose us, why do you love me, and all those things.
Yeah.
And foreplay for us
Mhm.
often begins outside the bedroom.
Yep. It's a text message when I'm out there doing my thing at work. It might be a phone call. It might be, before I leave the house, just a quick conversation
Or
or
it could be you putting away the laundry
it
that I
could
just
be,
folded.
or not throwing my underwear on the floor before I take a shower. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be, helping with the housework,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. So vacuuming, doing dishes, doing things around the house.
So what Duane is saying is that our next issue, the
Mhm.
next common issue that couples fight about, is about housework. And men who help with housework, studies have found, have more sex. And it's not even about how
Mm.
much housework that he contributes to, but it's more the perception and the fact that he's doing it. Right. So, honey, according to a study by the Pew Research Center, women still do more housework than men. And this is even when
Mhm.
both partners work full time. That's incredibly sad for obvious
Yeah.
reasons, but also there's the missed opportunities that those couples are experiencing. The research that
Mm.
shows that men who help with housework, end up having more sex with their wives. Well, imagine the connection that's happening, right? Imagine the connection that these couples are missing out on simply because they're not recognizing that this is something that women want help with.
Yeah. So what can be done in those situations? I feel like, as a man, I definitely can even now can do more, right? We can like put together a shared list, right, of all the things that need to be done within our household and split it up. I mean, there's no reason for that not to be equal. I mean, I think those are things that can definitely be split equally. And once it's done, as a husband, you can feel fulfilled. Like, hey, I did my job within the house. I feel like I'm contributing, right? And I think that's a great
Yeah,
thing. And you
absolutely.
feel the
And
same way.
there's actually tasks that I enjoy doing that I don't mind doing. Like I
Mhm.
will do laundry all
I
day
agree.
long. I hate putting them away.
Yeah. No, I do have a lot of clothes.
And so, but I will do laundry all day long from
Yeah.
morning till night. And so
Yeah.
if we divide up, if we're able to divide up labor where I know I'm doing things that I get to enjoy it, then
Mhm.
it doesn't become a point of contention for me. It's less likely that I'm going to feel taken for granted.
Mhm.
Well, however, it's done as long as there's clear communication. There's that C word again, clear communication and an understanding of how the division of labor is going to take place, I think is key.
Yeah.
And now we are on to the last issue that many couples fight about. And this one is actually really, really
Mhm.
interesting. We debated over whether or not to even include this
Yeah.
because it's funny, right?
Yeah.
So
It's a mystery.
yeah, it's a mystery.
Mhm.
Exactly. This actually came from Dr. John Gottman, again, the one of the world's leading relationship researchers. And he reveals that the number one thing that couples fight about is
Nothing.
nothing. Nothing.
Not a dang
And
thing.
and what he means about that is rarely do you schedule time or create an agenda to argue over a
Mhm.
specific topic,
Mhm.
right? I have yet, 24 years of marriage, and I have yet to come to Duane and say, I would like to schedule a time to argue about our finances, right? Like
Wow.
it doesn't
Yeah.
happen that way.
Mhm.
But sometimes topics come up
Mhm.
and without really meaning to, we end up hurting each other
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
Right? We end up hurting each other because of the words that we've chosen to say.
Mhm.
And oftentimes we look back on it and we don't even really remember.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, there's so many different times where you'll be in the car and something happens, like somebody cuts in front of you and you get upset, now you're antsy and you start getting into an argument and all of a sudden you think back and you're like, what in the world? Even later on that day, you're like, why are we talking? Why are we arguing? Like there's no point in what we were even talking about in the first place. Can't even really remember why we were arguing in the first place.
And the thing is, that's not even what matters the most. It's not even about the fight and even what it was about, right? So trying to rack our brains, trying to remember what we fought about is not really the most important thing. What matters is how we respond to the negative emotions in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
So when we argue about these nothing
Mhm.
topics, right? These topics that we often can't think of, but we inadvertently end up hurting each other in the process.
Mhm.
What's the response like? Is it, the end of the world at that point? Is it, where the conflict escalates
Right.
to levels that we don't even know or understand how it got there? That's how that's kind of how we gauge
Mhm.
the health of our
Yeah.
relationship. Because as I stated earlier in this episode of the podcast, it's really important that the positive interactions far outweigh
The
the
negative.
negative
Mhm.
interactions. So there's always going to be conflict in relationships. There's always going to be issues that we end up arguing about. And even if those issues seem like they're nothing, but how often are those negative issues overshadowing the positive?
Mhm.
How often are we focusing on the negative things about our spouse now and forgetting the positive things,
Mhm.
forgetting where we came from, forgetting who we were, forgetting the reasons that we fell in love in the first place?
Right.
Right. And so, research has shown that the happiest couples are those that have the 5-to-1 ratio positivity over negativity in their relationship. Right. So it's important that when we're seeing the negativity grow, that we find ways to reconnect with each other, because if we don't, trust will erode.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of reminds me of of a verse that you talk about quite often, actually. And it's Philippians 4, verse 8. And it says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is anything excellent, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about those things. And that is the beauty of, of thinking positively. I mean, when you think about your spouse, what are the things that you love? What are the things that I love about my wife? What do you think that things that you, Nadine, love about your husband? And meditate on those things, because those are going to be the ones that lead you into that next discussion. And if you're thinking about those positive things, then the negative things won't be as overwhelming, and those discussions will actually end up either starting in a positive way and ending in a positive way also. And one last thing is that whenever we fight about nothing, I realize that there's definitely something to do with our connection. And so as we close this out, anytime you guys feel like you are short with each other, like you're arguing about little things or nothing, it's usually because you haven't connected in a while. So maybe that's time to go for a walk, or it's time to go on a date night if you haven't done that in a while, or something together so that you can reconnect, start talking about like what's going on, what happened today, what happened yesterday, how's everything going with you, just reconnecting with your spouse. And I think that's usually the key to getting back in line.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and give you a chance to connect with one another and say goodbye for today's episode. And we hope that this has helped and encouraged you and putting you one step closer to having that purpose-driven marriage. See you next week.